I'm Lydia Smith from Niab, and I'm standing in a field at Great Dunmow, and we're going to talk about some of the work we've been doing involving soil quality and soil quality improvement using various methods. Now, we've got a project that's running at the moment. It's funded by the BBSRC, and one of the things that we want to do with this project is to make it as interactive as possible and to involve farmers who have a need and a wish to improve their soil quality and to understand more about how you get there using different methods. So I'm standing next to Jeremy Durant, who's representing or is in charge of the E W Davies Farm here at Great Dunmow. And in addition to working with us and emulating some of the work that we're doing in other fields that are fully run by Niab, he is repeating that as best he can. He's looking at the impact on his sheep because it's partly a grazing experiment, and as a really special extra favour this year, because we don't have the cereals event, rather than having our cereals pit where we could go and talk to different farmers about what we're doing, we have our own special little private pit that Jeremy and his colleagues has dug for us today. So thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
And we will now leap into the pit and tell you a bit about what we're expecting to see there. What we have here is a full 2-year establishment of a herbal ley which the farmer has been using for his sheep or mowing it, whatever management is appropriate. And then you can see behind me the scoop goes into his winter wheat, which we wanted to have a look at, basically the difference between what's happening in the soil under his winter wheat compared to what's happening under the herbal ley, which, as I say, is 2 years. So at cereals we'd only get about 1 year. And straight away, fascinating, I guess, for a lot of farmers who never get the chance to see precisely what's happening underground. But Jeremy would be in no doubt whatsoever, even if he hadn't looked, that it's a very heavy site, this. And one of the things we wanted to do in our project was to compare what happens at one soil type site to another, because, you know, the management that you do at one site might be inappropriate to another. So it's really important when you're looking at soil quality, structure, health, and things that you do to change that, to see what is the impact on the very different soil types. So here we're really at the heavy end of heavy. You can see down at the lower level of this pit, let me see, we're talking about 40 to 50 centimetres depth here. The lower level we've got very thick heavy clay. I guess if Jeremy wants to give up being a farmer, perhaps he could become a potter in his next life. Clay, I mean, it's sometimes it gets a bit of a bad name because it's a very important component of soils. It gives you that cation exchange capacity, and it gives you potentially a good nutrient source. So it can cause quite heavy waterlogging and compaction, but you do have some plus points. So getting back to the actual herbal ley, everything from about here onwards, you can see what's happening in the soil profile, and you can also see quite a bit about what's happening with the roots that are growing down through it. Now, we've cheated a little bit here because we looked around to see what the real potential was. So bear in mind, this is only 2 years established. It's been used as fodder for the farm sheep here, so it's pretty much never allowed to grow to its full height. It's either mown or grazed down. But this is one of the species that we have within our mixture. So this is chicory, and immediately you can see you've got a very different proposition here to the normal grass clover ley that is the normal food of sheep, other than any additions that they bring in. So, I mean, you know, we're not even talking about the breadth of my thumb. It's more than that. It's easily a 1.5 centimetres broad at the thickest point. And we were talking to Jeremy earlier, and he was saying it's interesting how different this is from a fodder radish, which you would get quite often in a cover crop mix, which, although you can get this big fat fleshiness that's injecting extra organic matter potentially into the soil, but you get that thickness in the fodder radish, but it soon narrows down to quite a thin root as you get down into the lower part of the topsoil, whereas here you continue with that sort of breadth of root. And again, if I can just give you a feel here for another part. Here's a slightly smaller one, and we have in no way reached the end of that root. Interestingly, this looks like as if it's the end of it, but again, look, we've got the snapped end there, so there was a lot more. You can see here that these deep, fleshy, solid, quite woody roots are penetrating right down and indeed into the clay layer. So what's the importance of that? Well, if you're talking about an annual crop like wheat, then clearly you only have a certain much smaller window during which the roots can penetrate into whatever part of the soil horizon. So if you have a very deep, light soil, then yes, we know, particularly from studies in Australia, that your wheat roots will go down 2 metres or more. But when you're encountering a very heavy site like this, it's very unlikely that the roots are going to go much beyond the sort of 35 to perhaps maximum 40 centimetres that you see as the topsoil. And as soon as they start to encounter this subsoil, particularly this heavy clay subsoil, then they start to struggle to get through it. So if you can inject this kind of really serious hydraulic pressure that is exerted by these kind of thick, fleshy roots, you've got the potential of injecting a decent high level of longer lasting organic matter into the lower soil horizons.